it's pretty significant. In 1967, I was a junior in high school. The Roland Curtin Foundation was formed, and in 1968, 1 year later, members of the Curtin family transferred, conveyed this property that the mansion sits on to the Roland Curtin Foundation. Subsequently, the Roland Curtin Foundation, of which we are all members of that nonprofit, conveyed the property to the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission. So they then began restoration of the mansion, and 6 years later, in 1974, the mansion opened for tours. So here we are today. That was a much less fabulous opening than what we have planned for you today, because we'll be touring all of the site today. So when we are finished here, then we will go back to a pavilion that's situated behind the mansion, and then ultimately tour the furnace as well. Okay, sounds good. So what's unique about today, in addition to the fact that it is our 50th anniversary, is that we are doing living history today, which means that all of us are playing different parts in history. And Roland Curtin, he
had to move his car.
Thank you for the time warp. Yes. So Roland Curtin, wave, Roland. Roland Curtin. He can't hear me.
Here he comes.
Get a microphone louder.
Pardon? He lost his hearing in the forge. That's what they're saying over here. So Roland Curtin is going to be portrayed by Phil Ruth. Phil Ruth, wave your arms. Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Jane Gregg Curtin will be, she is the second wife of Roland Curtin, and she will be portrayed by Linda Gow. Let's see, who else do we have here today? We have Rich Collier Rich, and he will be portrayed, Rich Waters. So Rich Waters is portraying Collier Rich, and Rich is going to be explaining the charcoal making process, which was the purpose of a collier. We also have Miss Brittany. Miss Brittany is here from the village, and she is going to answer any requests that our guests have that day, and she'll be working in the mansion. And with her is her daughter, Andrea. And she's smiling but not waving. We also have Mrs. Bryan. Mrs. Bryan is from the village, and there are 6 or 7 Bryan family members mentioned in the 1910 census that worked here at the Eagle Iron Works. And Karen Bryan is playing Mrs. Bryan, and yes, there is a connection.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And then we flash forward to 1974 for our photographer, who is being played by Renee Nash Nichols, and she is playing herself today, but she is representing 50 years ago in 1974 when we opened for tours. So I hope you enjoy this day. It's going to be a little bit different as we explain the history through first-person interpretation. So as an orientation to the site, I would like to share that you are located in the Juniata Iron District. We sometimes have an easel out here, but the wind is too great, so we're going to try and do it without an easel today. So we are located here in the Juniata Iron District, and it is comprised of 4 to 5 counties, including Center County, portion of Blair, Juniata, Mifflin, Huntington, and I got them all right. Oh, yes. And divided, it's called the Juniata Iron District because the Juniata River runs through it. This yellow triangle at the top is our location. We're at the top of the Iron District. So at the time this map dates from 1850, which was the height of making iron here at Eagle Iron Works. And there were upwards of 100 iron works in the Juniata Iron District at the time. And many of them were called plantations, iron plantations. and they comprised all the components needed to make iron. So a plantation would include residential space for the iron master, homes for the workers, and the iron furnace complex. And if you were traveling through the Juniata Iron District back in the 1850s, 1860s, it would be commonplace for you to see an iron plantation in operation. Today, this is the only iron plantation in Pennsylvania that provides public access to all the components of an iron furnace. Next slide. So we dig into this just a little bit deeper, and we get to Center County, and you can see that there were 19 iron works in Center County. And again, we are located up here. It's Curtin Iron Works. We are in Baldigo Valley, which I think most of you know. Baldigo Valley is this section, which is bordered by the Baldigo Ridge, the Allegheny Plateau, and Baldigo Creek is to our north. The Baldigo Railroad is right here to our south, and Curtin Village, where the workers lived, is across the road from this section. So here we are at Curtin Iron Works. You can see all these other iron furnaces, and you will learn more about that as to why we were making there were so many ironworks in Center County at the time. We'll learn about that a little bit later. You had a question?
Yeah, did the river Juniata have a role in
Yes.
irons?
The waterways had a significant role in iron because it was the early means of transporting iron to market. So we'll learn more about that as well, and how the iron was transported from this site to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and all the components are here that provided that transportation through its 112 years of service. Oh yes, and we have some pictures here that we want to share with you too. Let's start with the other picture first. The one that was taken from over here on the ridge, because it has notations on the bottom of it. So these two photographs, you saw a flash of the first one there, they were both from about 1870. We think they probably were taken by someone that came by rail. And this was taken from the knoll, looking back here toward the village. And you can see the distinctive image here is the mansion that's right here to your right. The plume of smoke is from the iron furnace, and it is in operation. The distinctive tall building back here, the four-story building, is a grist mill. We'll see that in the other photo. The building up here in the foreground is the church. And you can see the church right. There are other things also shown on this image as well, and you can take a closer look at it when it's convenient. And the picture that's on the ground right now was taken from the ridge that direction, looking back here. And the significant building in this picture is the grist mill. You'll see the four-story stone building. And I think that pretty much does it until Roland takes us back to explain how iron was made here at Eagle Ironworks, and a little bit about where the iron making process started. Oh, I did miss one, didn't I? This one. Right here in front. Let's show that one first before this one, because I think it'll be better for Roland to explain that other one. Yes, just in general, I did point out that the railroad was here to our south. This is the railroad. We are standing in front of the mansion, which is the managerial section here that you can see on this map. Over here is the workers' village, and we know that we have Mrs. Bryan from the village and Miss Brittany from the village. They were residents of the village, and that was directly across the road from where we're standing now. And then we also have the industrial complex, which comprised the furnace complex and the iron forge. So you'll learn about all these components. Roland Curtin will do a great job of explaining how he established them and their history.
Is anyone still alive in the Curtin family?
Yes, definitely. They are. There were 4 generations of iron masters. There was a 5th generation that lived here on the property when the property was conveyed from the Curtin family to the Roland Curtin Foundation and then to the state. And I actually thought there might be another generation, a 6th generation member here today. They were trying to travel from Pittsburgh, so I don't know if it would work out for them to arrive or not. But yes, there are many. It was a very large family, and there are many descendants.
And it's all Curtin. except for a woman, Curtin, who married somebody and took his name.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yes, and there are names that we're still learning that have married into the family that we're not real familiar with. So at this time, Roland Curtin, would you like to escort our friends?
All right, we're going to walk down to the pavilion there and have a seat for some show and tell and some other. 67 years old. I was born in 1764, so you can do the math for what time it is. I've just completed that building there, which I'll tell you about. So ride high, trying to avoid getting blown away. Let me tell you a little bit about myself, because I'm key to what you see here. Everything that you see here is probably either built by me or inspired by me. Wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for me and my savvy entrepreneurship and pretty, some people would say, crafty dealings with people. But hey, you got to do what you got to do if you're going to become an iron master. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to tell you what we're doing here, making iron. So as I say, 1764, I was born not around here, pretty far away from here, across the Atlantic, the west coast of Ireland in County Clare. I was born into a large family. We did okay economically. My parents had enough money to put us all through a classical school there in Ireland, and I even got a chance to go to Paris and study briefly at the Irish school in Paris. I was still there during the Revolution, as the Revolution was occurring, and that might have had something to do, I'm trying to remember it so far back, with why I decided to throw in my lot with quite a few of my other Irish patriots and seek my fortune in America. So I got on a ship and I sailed over here in 1795, and I arrived in Philadelphia, where it was one of the key destinations for people. There was a lot going on in Philadelphia. I didn't have much money. I tried to find ways to plug into the business community there. It was slower going than I had hoped. And then I got to know these two brothers. Their last name was Phillips. And they were English citizens. They came over from Britain and ran an import-export business there. They looked like they knew what they were doing. And I learned that they had acquired a large tract of land out in central Pennsylvania, far down in the Bald Eagle Valley in what was then wilderness for the most part. Mm-hmm. And they decided that they were going to build a town on that big tract of land. And so they tried to entice some original settlers to that tract. They offered the first 10 men who would say they would come out and help to found this town, which was along the Moshannon Creek. So they were going to call it Moshannon Town. They could have an acre in town and 10 acres outside of town. So they found 10 guys to do that. I had heard about it, but I didn't take the bait on that. I was uncertain if that was the way for me to go. But when those brothers got that started, they said, look, we have a store that we started out here. And it's just where we call Milesburg. It's about a couple miles up the Bald Eagle Creek here. They knew that I had a good business sense. So they said, would you operate our store and then also help to deal in things like cattle and horses and things like that? So that was enough of a temptation for me to come on out. So I settled there in Milesburg, and I did a very good job, if I might say so myself, for the Phillips brothers, to the point where when they got that Moshannon town going well enough to set up a town down there, so that's about 25 miles southwest of here, I said, well, let me buy your store here in Milesburg and operate that. And they agreed to do that. So I finally became an official businessman running a general store here in Milesburg in 1798. So by that time, there was already rumor that they were going to carve up big Mifflin County and create some smaller counties, including one called Center County, which, because of the shape of it, occupies the very geographic center of Pennsylvania, so it was easy to name there. And I had also seen that an ironmaster had started a furnace in Center County, or what was going to be Center County. They called it Center Furnace 2, and I could see that they were making a lot of money already by the late 1790s. So I had that in the back of my mind, someday I'm going to be an ironmaster myself. I had a long way to go before that could happen. I'm doing okay with being a general store operator, but that's pretty small beans compared to ironmasters. I was still a bachelor in the late 1790s. Finally, 1799, I decided to get married. And like a lot of things that I did, I put a lot of thought into it, and I was interested in the future and my prospects. And so when I learned that a United States congressman down in Potter County, just below Belfont, had a niece back where he came from in Carlisle. Her name was Marjorie Gregg, and she was of marriageable age and was open to the prospect. I went down to Carlisle and I convinced her to come back here to Milesburg with me, and in late 1799 we got married. Well, the next year, just a few months later, Center County was formed, and they picked Belfont to be the Center County seat. So that was going to be where all the action was as far as I was concerned. So that same year, 1800, we moved from Milesburg to Belfont. I opened up a general store there, and Marjorie moved with me. Over the course of the next 13 years, she delivered 6 boys. 2 of them died young, so I had 4 by, say, 1713. In the meantime, not only connected to this Gregg family, I found a way to get elected county coroner, and then county sheriff, and then county treasurer. And when my wife's uncle, who had just become a senator, he's no longer House of Representatives, he's actually a United States senator, wanted to start a bank. I said, "Can I get in on that?" I said, "Okay." And my connection with that Senator Andrew Gregg got even deeper through a tragedy. Marjorie, my wife, died in 1813. Left me with 4 young boys. Something about lemons into lemonade. By that time, Senator Gregg had a daughter who was marriageable age. Her name was Jane Gregg. So I moved on to the next model of Gregg. I married Jane.
Was there any love involved here? Opportunity.
This is business.
Right.
Somebody, somewhere down the line, somebody, I think, is going to invent television and create a series called Bridgerton. And you can watch that. So, 1714, I married Jane Gregg. This is the daughter of a senator, and was also now my partner in the bank. So I'm really moving up in the world. Jane also delivered 6 children, and then a 7th one. And none of them passed away early. So I had quite a few children. The first child, call you rich, you're doing such a good job. Jane looks exactly like she looks in the portrait that we had painted. I don't know, I look exactly the same way there, but that's a picture painting of me, and that's my second wife, Jane Gregg, who delivered 7 children. The first child of that, I dare say, maybe even made a bigger splash in the world than I did. This is him there. We named him after his grandfather, Andrew Gregg. This is Andrew Gregg Curtin. He studied law in Belfont there, and then
Governor.
Got interested in politics, got appointed to some positions, and eventually ran for governor in the fall of 1860 under the Republican ticket, which was a brand new party, and he was elected. governor of Pennsylvania. He started serving in 1861. There was a little something that happened a few months after that called the Civil War, and he was the Civil War governor of Pennsylvania for 2 terms. So he's kind of Bellefonte's most famous son, and he's my son as well. What you need to know about iron making is there's only one fuel that's hot enough, that burns hot enough to make iron with, and that's charcoal. And in order to make charcoal, you have to cut down trees, hardwood trees. And if you're feeding a furnace, you're cutting down a lot of trees, and if there's more than one furnace in the area, they're cutting down a lot of trees. So after a while, all the trees in the area are cut down. And that's what happened down in the suburbs of Philadelphia, Chester County, Lancaster County, Lebanon County, Berks County. They all had these furnaces. Well, after the Revolution, then we had the new country here, and it's moving westward. This area, I understand that there had been native peoples that lived here. They were encouraged to move westward and northward. They weren't allowed to stay here anymore. And that opened it up to people like me to come in and exploit these natural resources. Lots of hard lumber here, lots of timber. So that was not a problem. There was a wealth of lumber. We could start over fresh. The other things you need, of course, where does the iron come from? Well, the iron is hidden in chunks of rock like this called iron ore. Somehow you have to learn how to get the iron out of iron ore. Well, they learned in the late 17th century that if you can find iron ore and put it into a large mechanism called a furnace, this is a cutaway of a furnace there, and you put in a fuel that's hot enough to melt that iron ore, and then, even more importantly, you need a flux in that mix. So there's calcium in limestone, and all of these valleys here, Bald Eagle, Nittany, on down, even into Lancaster, Chester County, are underlain with high quality limestone. So this is what you need, and it's here. So you have all of the raw materials you need here, and none of it's been exploited yet. So what happens though, if you would dump iron ore into a furnace, if you put charcoal in there, and then you put a little limestone on top, it starts to work its way down, and you light it, it's not going to work very well, because charcoal at its hottest will burn at about 2200 degrees. This process here requires at least 2800 degrees. So you need one extra thing here to make this whole process work. And that is like blowing on a campfire. You need to stoke that flame with a glass of just regular air brought into the outside. We waited until the spring rains or the snow melt happened. There was usually several floods from March through June. We called them freshets, where it would just be a big wash down the creek. We were ready for that. We built on the side of the creek here these big flat-bottom wood boats with low sides, no keel or anything. They were basically something you could use by poling along. When the time came, when the creek was in flood, we'd load that up with iron, and a few guys would get on that. That boat was called an ark, and they pull that ark. Well, they didn't need to do much, pretty much in a flood stage. They just went with the water flow, maybe hitting things or spinning around a little bit. They did what they could to try to keep hitting things with their poles, but still, it was kind of a wild ride down the flooded. And then you got out to the West Branch, which was also flooded and a lot more water, and then the regular Susquehanna. So that was also not guaranteed. We did have some accidents. I lost a couple of men were killed doing that. More than that, we lost cargoes of iron, and we had to wait until August when the water was low to try to dive down and get it again. So that was also not guaranteed. So this is just one of the many things that you had to, that tested the nerve of Iron Masters. It took a special guy, if I must say so, to have the nerve and then the money to be able to operate an ironworks. Yes.
Yeah, when you shipped, how did they ship it? I mean, was it more like bar? Like
Is it bars?
elongated?
Yes.
You know?
Yes, a bar merchant iron, so about 60 pounds. It was about 3 feet by 2 feet and about 2 inches high.
Okay.
And that was the product. Nice bar merchant iron.
Kind of like how steel mills would do ingots.
Yes, right.
Or ingots.
Yeah.
With a G, but yeah. And then they chip them. Okay.
You could take that, and later on I had a slitting mill down here, so you could warm that up a little bit and slice it into nails or roll it into sheets. We had a rolling mill down here too, roll it into sheets. So everybody was interested in our products, and I got to do pretty well myself. You look at my cash flow, it's a little bit of a roller coaster, but generally I ended up on top, to the point where in 1825 there was a miller living over here, and he had this old saw and grist mill and a few little cabins with it, and I convinced him to let me buy that. And I knocked down that old mill and I built a 4-story grist mill, and I started building a workers' village over there to go with my forge. A few years before that, I built a furnace about a mile south of here, and I operated that for about 20 years. When that went out of blast, and just about the time I retired, me and my sons, because I had quite a few sons that were interested in working the business, we built this furnace right here, just stone's throw from the forge. So that really solidified this place as a complete ironworks. And then to make it complete for us, I built this house. Started building in 1830, finished in 1831. My family and I, we've been living down near the first furnace, about a mile from here. It's just an old farmhouse. So this was a real step up for us. I came here and we lived here for almost the rest of my life. I retired in 1844, and we moved to Belfont, where we had a house already. And then my son John took over the Eagle Ironworks here in operated.
Yep. So I am Jane. I'm Mr. Curtin's second wife, and I was born in 1791. And my parents were Andrew Gregg and Martha Potter Gregg. They were from Carlisle and came up about 1890. No, let me see. About 1897, I think they came. 1797. Yeah. 17. Yeah, 17. 17.
So Potter, like Potter Township?
Like General James Potter.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And
64 to 1791.
Oh, that's what I was trying to do the math.
yes.
He came over here in 95. By 98, your grandma's daughter.
I was trying to figure out the age. I'm trying to come in as wife.
Right. Yes. So, the first wife was my cousin.
Got to keep it in the family.
I
gotta keep it in the
guess.
family,
Talk about
yes.
Bridgerton.
Yes. And another interesting intermarriage between the Gregg family and the Curtin family before I became the wife with Mr. Curtin is that my younger sister was his brother's wife.
His brother's wife. Okay.
Yes.
You did
Yes.
keep it in the family.
Yes. Yeah. So when I was asked in marriage, I considered the fact that he already had 4 sons who were 13, 8, 6, and 4. I was 23. He was 50. Yes.
Oh my word.
And this was my first marriage.
Yes.
But considering the fact that there was already, I was already familiar with the Curtin family, and and certainly there were social interactions and everything like that. And I was the second oldest, the second child and second daughter of my parents, and they had 10 children. So my youngest sister was born when I was 20, and my father was often away. He was a U.S. representative. He was a U.S. senator. He was Secretary of the Commonwealth. So he was often away. So it was my mother, who was dealing with 10 kids. So I have a lot of experience raising kids. So this wasn't such a daunting.
So you had
perspective.
6 then.
We had 7.
7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, big families back then, but Jesus.
Yeah. So actually, when this was a big plus to have a bigger house.
I know.
When we moved in here, there were 18 people who came to live here. It was a big family. I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, and she wasn't born here. But yes. So I would like to tell you first something about the style of the house. It is built in what we call the federal style, which was the primary architectural style from 1780 until 1830. And it's typical of ironmasters' mansions in this area, using the federal style. And what characterizes the federal style and kind of distinguishes it from the colonial style, they both were very symmetrical, but the federal style was a little bit more toned down, a little less ornate. And you can see from the front of the facade here, it's just an expanse of clear stucco. And it's stucco over limestone. These are limestone walls 2 feet deep, and very symmetrical in that we have a dormer, a window, a door, and on both sides, 2 windows, 2 windows, 2 windows. They're exactly alike. There were a series of porches put on the house, but it was determined that by the state restoration people, when they redid it, that there was not a porch in 1850. So they took off the porch and they made the door a little narrower, and then there's a fan on the top. But really, that's the only decorative element on the facade here. Now, not only is the outside symmetrical, when you go in, you'll see that the Federalist kind of houses are square or rectangular. They're two rooms deep. They're usually 2 to 3 stories high, and occasionally there will be an L, another third layer on one side. And this is the case in this house. There is a third column, I guess you would call it. The kitchen is at the bottom, and 2 bedrooms above that. So if you would like to come in, please, I'll show you around the inside.
Thank you.
Stop me at any time if you can't hear what I'm saying. Okay. Something with a question or anything like that. This area, you notice there's an arch. That arch divides the public space, which is this part of the house, from the private area. So if you were coming in from the public, you would present your card, but you would be on this side of the arch. Someone would come and take the card, and you say you're visiting, Mr. Curtin. And then they would go find Mr. Curtin, and he would say yes. He would see the visitor.
Did Mr. Curtin have someone who would address somebody coming in?
Yes, there were people from the village who would hear help in all kinds of manner. There were, people doing physical work. There were people in the kitchen, the laundry, taking care of the kids. So there was, among the 18 people, there were some people that were working here plus. And so I don't think there was anybody designated, let's say, a butler or anything. I don't know that there was ever a butler. But somebody would, it wasn't, I'm sure it was informal. And whoever was going by and a person came in and would go and find Mr. Curtin. And He used this area at some times for an office. He then had an office outside, in a different building, separate from here. But at the beginning, he had an office here, and actually then he had an office upstairs too. We'll see that later.
Glad I lived
But this
today.
was also made in the furnace here, this crane, and some of the kettles. This may have been in the, shortly after we moved in, we had a summer kitchen built because it's very hot in the summer to be cooking. So they have summer kitchens. A summer kitchen and a laundry room was built. And this was found in the summer kitchen, and some of my help did use a stove like that, so this probably was original to the house. This over there was also found in the laundry room. I don't know if you've ever seen anything or whatever it's called.
Ringer, it looks
It's
like.
like a ring washer, they call it a mangle.
A what?
A mangle.
Mangle.
M-A-N-G-L-E.
Oh, mangle.
Yes, and the purpose was, you could use it as a ringer, but you would have to have some kind of drainage.
Yes,
underneath.
a big bucket or something.
But I think the way they used it is they took the washing, they hung it up and let it dry pretty dry, and then they ran it through there, so it was really the function of pressing.
Depressing.
Yeah.
So is that, I wonder if that's where the word, use the word mangle if something
It's
gets,
just mangled.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it
if it went through that.
it would be mangled. Your finger, if you.
Did girls all sleep in one room and boys all sleep in another room and dad and mom, I don't know.
It varies.
Yeah.
It varies depending on the age and who was living and who was visiting.
Right.
Right now, in this situation, this is the honor master. This is Curtin and I last day.
Thank you very much.
It has a high poster bed. And it's a tiny bed. It is a tiny bed for two people, but I see Greg Curtin. He has a house in town. So this is a single adult. This one over here is usually for a woman who has small.
It is.
So
That's like, it's a full bed.
the older sons
Maybe that's
had, I think I must have had, I don't know how many grandchildren. Let me see, that's 2, 6, and 4, that's 12. And then, so that's 12 grandchildren. And they would be little ones and pregnant women. So this is generally the mom and the kids would be in here. And you can see it's been set up for having a rocker there, a cradle. And it's a little bit larger in size. And then when they're old enough to get out of this, be with your mom all the time, they can move to this room right here. Although the older kids tend to want to be in this room right here. So this is set up as a nursery and children's room. They would sleep in here by themselves. And there's examples of clothing. The clothing that they would be wearing. And the chamber pot here, this is a fancy chamber pot. I was talking about the bedding. If you want to tighten, if you needed to tighten the rope wrenches, there's a rope wrench, that's what that's called, because you can tighten the ropes. And then there's a tick spreader. This tick spreader here, the ticking is what is on top of the mattress. It's the top level layer of the mattress. Usually it's straw or leaves or acorns and it gets lumpy, rolling around in bed. So you just spread it out, pat it down, whatever you need to do with this tick spreader. There. This is a yarn winding, I call it right here. If you've already made the yarn and you just want to make it into skeins of yarn, you can somehow, I haven't figured out how it works, you can tell it you want to do 10 spins or something like that. So you wind it 10 times, then you cut the yarn, and that's one piece. And then you do another 10. so that you get scans of equal size. This one right here was made by the blacksmith in the village. He made it for his granddaughter. And I would be told, I don't know whether they put a dog there to pull it or a goat or what.
That's what I was gonna say, a goat.
Yeah.
Hmm.
About the furnace. And the cornices, the original cornices for the windows are up there and then they were shown. This is a reunion blanket. To support the reunions, we paid $5 to have your name. You didn't tell me the reunion made on the post. And I can't remember the date. This one was 1979. So people who are from this area come and look at the names and they say, oh, I recognize this name because it isn't really that long ago. Let me see what else is the old fire cash boxes.
Eagle, that's original,
What amazes me is how they build it in those days when they don't even have the equipment like today, you know?
That's when you had knowledge and experience.
Here's the canal.
Yeah.
You didn't have a machine to employ it.
And then Bald Eagle Lake is pretty much right here. Yeah. There's a lock right back in here that's not far away. It's in the trees.
What's this, oh, Muncie Mountain?
Every half hour they're putting a new charge in the furnace. You can make sure that
Make
it's
sure it's
being
on.
done.
That's how I noticed his shirt.
Yeah, so
I couldn't figure out what
it
he had.
turns to go to Bellefonte. It was supposed to go to Port Matilda, but since Bellefonte was more of a hub and a prosperous town, the canal went this way. And that's why you got the name Port Matilda, supposedly. It was supposed to be a port for the canal system.
My name is not Collier, and it's not concerning isn't rich. I'm Tom Dole, so you can see the crop we call roll and cut.
Oh.
He asked me wanted to dress up, so my wife kindly cleaned and semi-pressed.
Well, linen pants, I'm impressed.
I'm impressed. You noticed?
Yes.
Extremely impressed.
Yes.
Perfect for the season.
It is. It is.
Entirely is.
And I mean, the whole thing is just great.
Well, thank you. So he asked me to dress up for you, and unfortunately, I've got to apologize because I don't have a coat or a frock. So it's red bear. I'd be more embarrassed to not do wear it than not to. So we'll go. But he asked me to give you a little background. And originally, I was somewhere between York and Reading. It's first generation American, about 1820 to 25. We're not sure. The second of about 9 children. And lieutenant, she in the mouth. It's the age of majority because you all are. No.
18? No.
21.
21.
21. Your wages were your father. So
Oh,
subsequently, if he didn't need me on my brothers on the farm, the women stayed, my sisters. He farmed me out. And I basically got fed and some clothing for 6 days of work, 10 and more hours a day. Come harvest time, full moon, we'd be out there 14, 15 hours till the moon set. I got pretty sick of it. So about the time I was 21, he gave me what he thought was my share of the labor, my father. And I decided to take off. So I came west. The opportunity was, because things are more and more expensive out east, as you probably know, as you travel. So eventually, looking for work, being a farm boy, I knew which end of the axe to use, and likewise, a shovel or hoe. I never lacked work, but it didn't pay much, and the hours were still long. So I finally got out east near Shippensville, and Pennsylvania Commonwealth was building a canal, and I actually got on as a hand on a canal boat. Typically, I'd drive the horses that pulled it and take care of them, or I'd help load and offload. Money wasn't bad. Sleeping conditions, living conditions could have been better, being on something 75 feet long and 14 wide. most of it cargo on the canal boat. Wasn't the best life, and in season. Once things started to freeze up, even on the Susquehanna, the canal shut down. You had to find some other work, and the guy you were working for didn't care. Come back in the spring, I might have work for you. So eventually, about mid 1840s, you know, a few years on my own, we ended up around here. And they were finishing digging the canal, mostly an Irish immigrant crew, digging the canal from Howardville, 6 miles down the street, up to Bellefonte. So I joined them because I'm of Irish descent. I understood the culture. And I dug down here, and we were just about a few years later, I hung around the area to build Pleasant Furnace, which is now called Eagle. We'd bring it back here, and where we're standing right now used to be a 60 by 60 foot shed. Three-sided, shed roof. We'd fill that up. And then any excess, there was a 60 by 200 shed over here where the grass, the hay was growing. We'd fill that up. This 60 by 60 was almost a month's 30 days worth of charcoal to feed that monster. Piled this deep, and any excess to build up to go the rest of the year, the other 8 to 9 months of the year to keep the furnace going, would go in a 60 by 200. So hard, dirty work, seasonal again. He'd send, as he said, there were over 200 living in the village, but about 100 of us would go out every September log fell trees. And
How
do
far
that.
into the fall and winter would you go?
Pretty much till it was just too cold.
Yeah.
We'd go into like January and stuff.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember the hillsides, we didn't have roads.
Mm-mm.
You had to make your road as you went.
Yeah.
And after a while, it just became too difficult. And we weren't like a typical logging operation where you'd make slides and just cut out something that big and then split a log and lay it in a V, wet it so it ice froze on it and drag it down like you take it into the mill. We did everything in flow. So we didn't bother doing it.
Did everything in what?
Yeah, pretty much late September, October through January. But we didn't create log slides. And that's where you take a large bolt of a tree, 10, 15 feet, whatever you get, and you'd split it once down the side, 2 halves, and then you make a cross foot. You hold it up so it flopped this way and made a channel, a V. And then we'd put snow on it and pour ice on it when I was logging. And then that way we could bring up one horse. We'd have short chains and spikes. We'd stab the butt of the one lead and have one following. And one horse, if it was iced up, could pull 10, 15 laps down the hill. Get to it. Get out completely, because what's water do when it gets too hot?
Steams.
Yeah.
Builds pressure.
And that was always a consideration on what the flood stage of the river was behind us, the Bald Eagle Creek. Sometimes it would approach the base level of the furnace. You get water in there with 3,000 degree iron, you got a big problem.
Yeah.
You don't want to be standing anywhere close. So we would fire it up. The only time we shut it down was when we lost charcoal. Had no charcoal. Iron ore was usually here. Limestone was usually here. Or the fire brick burned out inside the furnace itself. So they kept it going as long as they could, because we'd have to shut it, cool it down. It'd take a week or more. And then do the repair. And then, take another week to fire it back up. There we go. He did this to me. So we moved that. There we go. Secure this so we can get it. Now, if you go in there, I think as Roland told you, there's 3 basic components to make an iron, or make an iron. 4 actually. And we're going to talk about 3. Rocket, thank you. Like that much. Thank you, sir. That'll keep it. That door's pretty heavy if it hits you with the wind.
Yeah.
What we did up here, there's 4 components, and we added 4 components of charcoal. And we feed this monster every 30 minutes. And charcoal was the biggest constituent part of it. And we would have to take 15 bushels of charcoal from that 60 by 60 shed down there where we were and bring it up. This held about 5 bushels. So 3 times in 30 minutes, every 10 minutes, one of these heat had to come up. And you go back here, Curtin. You gotta remember, this is where we drop it in. Behind us, this chimney is the second chimney for the furnace itself. This is just to help us when we open that iron plate to take the heat. You know, if we did just had it was capped off and on the chimney, the heat would come out at us. Because we're burning it over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit down there. Hot as Hades. We pull that back, dump the carts here, and push it in, you know, with like a wide hoe.
Wow.
And then we'd add 500 pounds of limestone, probably about right there, every 30 minutes. And we'd add, 500 pounds of iron ore in the farm. I'm sorry, and then 3 bushels of limestone, that's a little bit shy of 3 bushels. We put those in every 30 minutes, round the clock, as long as the furnace held up, and burn it. The other constituent or important part of it is air. And the reason was the charcoal is a very good heat source. It gets you up to about 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. And to get you up to 3,300 degrees Fahrenheit for the iron ore to melt, you needed a blast of air because the pure oxygen in the air would heat the fire up. It would intensify. And you can see what's happening here. This is the different layers. These ones being charcoal, the iron ore, and then a thin layer of limestone. Now the limestone was like magic because as you can see here, there's nothing but dirt and, you know, God knows what, you know, in the ore itself. The beautiful thing is the limestone, when it's melting, will combine with all the junk, you know, and the iron won't combine with it. So when it melts and drips down through the crucible, what's dripping down here is pure iron and the slag is lighter. The bad elements that combine with the limestone is lighter than the pure iron ore, so it floats on the top, stone on it, which is really, whoever figured that out, it would have been several hundred years before this place.
Somebody was definitely a professor at math and stuff.
Oh, yeah, without doubt. There's some, and interestingly, from what I understand, some people say it was England, Great Britain, some people say it was the Netherlands.
Oh, it's Great Britain for sure.
Depends on your persuasion. Yeah, being Irish, no, I don't think.
No.
I like the thought.
Yeah. English.
But somebody about the same time, different parts of the world,
Yeah.
Europe, figured out the process. So quite interesting. Yes.
Forgive my stupidity. So is someone standing up there feeding?
No, ma'am. This round plate,
Yeah.
you snake that out of there,
Oh.
standing way back with a long iron hook.
Oh,
You
okay.
snake that out to the
And it'll
side.
go down there.
Yes, because what you're looking at,
Okay.
I don't show it well here. Here is where we are,
Yeah.
and that hole is represented, you know, like here.
Okay.
What we're looking at here, they don't
Okay.
show it well in this drawing.
All right.
And everything is just piled on top. And because of the way the fancy French word, I can't remember it, there's a special curve to the bottom. This shows straight-sided. There's a really smooth curve. And that was the difference why they, like Curtin, hired a founder who was well versed in the process and also in the construction of a furnace. Because the curve held all that weight up. You know, when you think about it, I mean, we're putting 500 pounds of iron in, 1,000 pounds of iron ore an hour. So think about that, in 12 hours.
Jeez.
Well, you know, 12,000 pounds of iron ore and slag collecting down here in the coast. And it's really interesting if you want to go down, you can actually look up through the port at the bottom of this curve. Sorry, I can't remember the proper name, but it's only about that big in diameter. Just totally amazing that all that weight is self-supporting while it's on fire and going over molten state. Just an amazing blessing. And they would go through extreme part of the preparation. It's not well shown here, but the foundation was infinitely important. They would actually dig down just above the water table and create a waterway with crushed stone. So the water did come up through the ground or started to seep in on the flood stage. It wouldn't get into the crucible and cause that explosion to the stage. So they wanted it all exceptionally good drainage. So that was a big part of it too. The other feature on this is you'll see the fire brick outlined here. Well, the yellow is, like you might assume, it's sand and fine crushed stone. Because as we all know, what happens once we get this burning? Things get bigger.
Yeah.
So the stone is here to support the mass inside the furnace and support the fire brick, because there's no mortar, it's dry set. And the sand, because of its granular nature, allows the expansion to happen. So nothing gets pushed. It absorbs it, you know, and then if we have to come out of heat, it's called a heat. Stick your head up through
Yeah.
and look into it. It's
Yeah,
neat.
me too.
I have to.
I think it's one of the neat things to look at because they actually reproduce the proper curve in the fire brick and everything. Because they plaster over it and stuff.
Yeah.
That was all reconstructed too.
There's cobwebs, so I moved it out for you.
You moved the cobwebs?
Oh, good man, good man.
He's a sweetheart like that.
You can see the place over here. At the
Yeah,
bottom.
comes in through the side. No.
So I just got done with the Curtin Village tour, and I found, they gave us something, all of us. This is a passport. It's your guide to historic sites, museums, and more for Center County. I will have to, you know, go through all these because some of these I've been past or I've been to, but now since they have all this stuff, it's like I like that because they do passports for state parks, national parks, whatever. That system is similar to this, or these guys copied it, whatever. But what I want to end with, besides my little ending clip, probably I put at the very end. I picked up a whole bunch of these brochures, so they'll have an event. They had one April 20th, so this one is the opening weekend. No, actually, no, April 20th, May 8th, June 9th, that's today. Oh my God. 50th anniversary tourist season opens, you know, self-guided or guided. They'll have one June 23rd, log cabin day and tour. Tour Sundays, July 14th and 28th, August 11th and 25th, September 8th, 22nd. Heritage Day is the 14th of September. Apple Fest is the 19th. And then their Christmas at Curtin is December 8th, 7th, and 8th. Pretty much all this information. Grabbed a bunch of them. Talked to the guys and gals over there. I told them what I do. I have that photography page. And I share a lot of event pages for a lot of event posts that they do, or just photos in general. Try to help them because they're the closest. Well, museum, living, it's almost like a living museum. I don't know what you call it, but I can think of it, but I just don't know how to say it. But anyways, whenever you go there, I gonna try to say this at every video, in the video I did for the Portage, Elgin Portage, which I'm wearing their shirt today. I talked about it with some of the people that went there after the tour. But anyways, what I really want to talk about was when you go there, please donate, because these folks, they're all volunteers here. They have to learn all this stuff to tell us the story about Curtin and his family and the workers, and how that whole organization, company, whatever, ran, because it's just really important to see what they did back then to make stuff now, like cast iron stuff, even just to get charcoal is really, really quite interesting. I never really thought of it. I've seen an episode of Dirty Jobs where Mike Rowe deals with charcoal, but I never really thought, how do they make it? You know, how do they do it? And it's quite interesting. The gentleman who was representing the workers he was explaining it, and he showed us in the building over there and all that. I even actually got to go in the furnace and look straight up, and it's awesome. It's literally hands-on. I never really thought I could do that. We have so many iron furnaces around. Ferensville isn't far away. That one's pretty much, it's got a fence around, but you can see an idea of what it is close up. Carthus, unfortunately, in Clearfield County has one, but the reason why I say unfortunately, it's falling apart. They had money way back when, probably 30 years ago. I had somebody comment one of my posts about it, either in my Clearfield County group or post on my photo page about it, and I guess money fell through and they can't fix it, and that's falling apart. They mentioned Martha Furnace, which is down. I have a video of that one. That one is unfortunately falling in on itself pretty much right now. This time of year, you can't even see it. It's just trees. And I told the one couple, I don't know where they were from exactly. Oh, they lived over in Center Hall, but they're not from here. But I told them when the trees are down all the way to springtime, you can see it. It's right above Port Matilda on Old 220. That's how I describe everything. It's Old 220, New 220, Old 22, New 22. But yeah, Vittendale has one, that one, and then there's one not far from there, like more past, going west off of 2022. That whole thing's 22, new or old. There's one out there somewhere. I've seen it once. The one down near Lamont, that one was the first in the county from the 1700s, which is really cool. But anyways, if you could, the people at the Curtin Village did a fantastic job. I mean, fantastic. When we had, you'll see, you've already seen the wind knocking over the signs from what Roland did. I'm very impressed by them knowing all that stuff. I'm full of useless knowledge. Some people say it's not, but excuse me. But I asked that you guys would donate. There was even, I gave them money, but you can also donate through a Cash App. They have a QR code, whatever, at the event. But please, I'm going to start doing that, try to get that at the end of the videos. I did donate to the Allegheny Portage. So I'm trying to just help my way of promoting, because I'm always somewhere. Yeah, everybody, my one friend said, I don't have to go anywhere. I just look at your Facebook and I can see that stuff. And I'm like, all right, I'm okay with that. I'm pretty cool with that. So yes, please donate wherever you go, to any organization, museum, whatever. Any little bit helps, because with how things are, I'm not going to get politics, but electric at certain places is not cheap. I know a museum, it costs at least, last I knew, it costed them a couple $100 for electric and the heat, whatever, because nothing's cheap. But anyways, just keep it at that. But please donate. I would greatly appreciate it. This actually went longer than I wanted it to, but I figured, once I start talking, I don't really, But thank you guys. Stay tuned for the next video. Catch you guys next time. If you guys like these videos of trains and history stuff, don't forget to like and subscribe. They're at the bottom below my video. And also check out my links to donate to help with my adventures. I don't make any money pretty much off of the links. It's just to help with gas and, help you basically make more videos just like these. So if you could, that'd be greatly appreciated. Bye, guys.